daunting thing about them is that you have the huge cooling stacks, and you're like, oh great, if you're uneducated, oh great, here goes this nuclear power plant just putting uranium or some type of byproduct in the atmosphere. No, that's just steam.
Degrading their own beliefs, and their whole idea is like predicated on degrowth instead of innovating and doing something which I think
unless
is
you're
worse.
loan sharking, then they'll break your kneecaps. Hello and welcome to Simply Technical. Keaton and I are back again here, coming at you with a recording, not live. Thank you guys so much for their support. We posted Connor's episode on Monday, yesterday of recording this last week, when this video goes up, and it's doing a lot better, at least in the 24 hours that we normally have.
Oh yeah, I think that's our most
quickest,
viewed,
or at least quickest.
Yeah.
To reach 90 views or 92 views. So super exciting. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of clickbaity, but we stuck to the topic. We talked about kind of the rise in mental health issues in the U.S. And we talked to Connor, who is currently a counselor or a coach, but on his way to become a therapist.
Yeah.
So anyways, go check out that episode. But today we're going to talk about something we kind of saw a tweet on just like 10 minutes ago, that Germany just shut down their last nuclear power plant in their country.
Yeah, and this comes after all the energy issues crisis they had during the winter, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they had horrible planning, and then you would think hindsight's 2020, right? Well, apparently hindsight's not 2020 because they're going to continue down the path of causing energy crisis. I guess good for the U.S. if we continue to export them gas and coal.
Yeah, maybe we're the ones who are actually behind this whole thing. But it's so strange because they were planning on shutting this down before the energy crisis, and then the energy crisis was taking place, so they decided to not shut them down and delay it. And, everyone thought, okay, well, they're probably just not going to shut them down at all. Nope. Turns out, no, they shut them down. And for some stupid reason, it's pushed by the climate activists. That is like the most backwards idea there is, because nothing is more, or I wouldn't say nothing is more climate friendly, but nothing is more powerful to replace coal in a clean way than nuclear power. It's not a perfectly renewable energy source like wind or solar, but it's pretty dang clean. So
and it's more efficient,
much more efficient.
It's a lot more efficient. And then one of the big issues with at least solar is only on during the day, of course. Yeah. And then also it takes a ton of like resources just to make one solar panel.
Really?
I don't know what type of like specific materials it takes as far as like individually, but I know that obviously you take a ton of copper to make the actual like solar cells is kind of intensive. It kind of goes back to the electric car. To make your batteries, you need a ton of cobalt, and the cobalt mines in foreign countries. Africa, I think China has some, and it's like the amount of resources it takes to mine this cobalt to get it back to the United States to make your batteries for your Tesla or other electric car is like, okay, well, these aren't as clean as we thought they were.
Yeah.
But also goes back to, well, I have an electric car, I'm saving the environment. Well, your electric car is powered by a coal powered plant. But as far as like nuclear, they burn the is it fusion? Uranium, but I think they use fusion. I don't know. It's not.
Oh yeah, fusion, not
fusion.
I don't know. I get them mixed up. Which one's the holy grail?
I believe that's fission.
Okay.
So like that whole process is a lot more efficient, and the amount of material it takes is a lot lower. So basically, you use the fusion to.
It's fission.
It's fission. It is fission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you use fission to heat up water, which generates steam. The steam turns a turbine. So when you look at a nuclear power plant, I think the most daunting thing about them is that you have the huge cooling stacks, and you're like, oh great, if you're uneducated, oh great, here goes this nuclear power plant just putting uranium or some type of byproduct in the atmosphere. No, that's just steam.
No.
It's steam. It's no, and you're boiling water on your countertop. You're doing something similar, or on your stove. So I think that's a little daunting to people that are uneducated. When I was in high school, we had a Navy nuclear engineer come talk to us at our engineering school and just talk about like how everyone's so scared of radiation, etc. Well, these guys are, underwater next to nuclear power plants or nuclear cores, and they're around it all the time, and they actually get less radiation than we do outside. When you go outside, you actually get I don't know the exact unit, but they were like less than 100 for the month, and like normally going out in the sun, for the month you're like around 300, 400, I believe. I don't remember the exact units, but it's just interesting to learn that these guys are around nuclear power plants all day for months or a month, and they actually get less radiation than you and I do on the daily.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of crazy. I mean, the main reason the activists, I think, they say it's not super clean. Or like you said, they're probably a bit uneducated on what it's actually putting out or not putting out. But I think they're mostly afraid of Chernobyl-like incidents, like that type of disaster sort of happening at a larger scale, which I think is sort of warranted, but like statistically, it just is way more rare than deaths caused or diseases caused by like a coal or well, I guess I don't know.
Mining coal,
yeah, mining coal for one. The whole process of burning coal, I guess.
Yes. So, oh, good.
No, you keep going. You
go. But if you do a little bit of research on nuclear power, the isotopes, I guess, the material, the uranium, or if they use a uranium substitute, which can be synthesized actually, is all self-contained. Like most people, if you work in a, as most people, you wouldn't be exposed to it if you're working in a nuclear power plant. It's all self-contained. They have very strict regulations on being exposed to it. So they actually use so for an engineer standpoint, they use what's called a heat exchanger. So it's the uranium heats up the water in one tube that's exposed to the uranium, like the nuclear aspect, the radiation aspect, and then it runs by another pipe, a pipe of cold water or cooler water. It gets heated up by coming near the other pipe, kind of like your radiator in your car, but instead of air going across it, they're coming in close contact. So the radioactive water doesn't come in contact with people. Now, when you go to shut down and do maintenance, that's when you have to be a little more worried, because when they do maintenance, they shut these things down for like a month or two.
Okay.
For long term to make sure it's all up to code. They do different checking on the different materials, make sure you're not going to get a crack in one of the pipes from the cyclical rate of heating and cooling multiple, hundreds of times, thousands of times. So and then obviously you deal with that radioactive water that is, like I said, on a much less scale than the rest of the water that's being heated up.
Yeah. So have you ever seen Chernobyl, the show? Oh, it's so good. It's so good, but also I hate at the same time because it does feel like, well, it's a completely true story. Obviously, it sort of stokes the fears of what can happen with a nuclear fallout or nuclear power plant disaster. But like you said, at this point, like that was in Soviet Russia. Like that's, I would assume our sort of safety standards now and regulations are way, way higher since that incident. So even the U.S. has kind of turned away. I mean, when was the last time we built another nuclear power plant? Instead, we end up just shutting them down. I think California shut one down last year. Whereas I remember, I know that Oklahoma blocked one, not recently. It was a couple decades ago or 3 decades ago or so. But all these things, I mean, I'm sure that was kind of pushed by the oil and gas industry in Oklahoma, obviously. But I just cannot understand how this consumed the environmental movement and not, more right-wing politics instead. Because I mean, it just doesn't make sense how in the world this sort of switch happened.
Yeah, I mean, I can only think of 2 disasters in the last. When was Chernobyl? Was that in the 60s?
Oh, it was like late 80s, I think.
Late 80s?
Yeah.
So in the last 40 years, we've had 2.
Chernobyl and Fukushima.
And the Japan,
Yeah.
the Japan one that was in 2011. I'm trying to look up some stuff on it currently. It won't be. It takes 30 to 40 year target is what they're aiming for. So 2050, about 2050 is when they think that the city or the site will be operational by.
Okay.
Again, so it's not like it's gone forever. I think the issue with Chernobyl isn't it still leaking radiation?
Yes, I think so. It will for like hundreds of years or something ridiculous.
So I think they did a lot different take on the Japan one, which Fukushima, I think is what it's called.
Fukushima, yeah.
And I mean, it's been 12 years since then. Which what happened there? They had a 9.0 magnitude 9.0 earthquake, which actually the anniversary just happened a month ago. Yeah, freak earthquake. Yeah, it happened March 11th. And then that caused a huge tsunami that took out the power supply and cooling systems.
Wow.
Let's see.
So complete freak incident. If you put these things where there's not going to be tsunamis and earthquakes are
or on a
less
fault
likely.
line, yeah. And that's, I mean, so we were talking a little before. There's 92 nuclear reactors in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
According to this map, there's 3 west of Colorado, 1 in between San Francisco and Los Angeles. So I'm guessing San Diego. I don't know my California geometry all that well.
No, San Diego's more further south.
Oh, south. Okay.
Yeah.
1 in Washington and 1 in Arizona. So, like, I understand that there's not a ton in California because, I mean, isn't the border
sense.
of it like on a fault line?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that, hey, we're not going to put them in California where we have tons of earthquakes and this is likely to happen.
Yeah.
I guess even Oklahoma has tons of earthquakes, but they're relatively small.
Yeah, we have those small
3 or 4 that no one ever feels.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of these out of the 92, 3 are west of, I guess you could even say west of the panhandle of Oklahoma. So that means 88 or 89 of them. 2 are in Dallas, 1 in Kansas, 1 in Nebraska, and the rest are East Coast or up around the Chicago area and New Orleans. So, and I guess you would also kind of worry about hurricanes as well.
Yeah,
maybe not as dangerous. I mean,
yeah,
hurricane's not as dangerous as an 9.0 earthquake, happening on your power plant.
Yeah.
It's easier to build against winds than it is your entire foundation breaking.
Yeah.
Or even a tsunami. So yeah, I think if you're strategic about where you place them, I mean, you have to be strategic because of them getting placed near metropolitan areas or within a reasonable distance of a metropolitan area so that you can not have to have just ginormous transmission lines from the power plant to cities. Or I guess any additional. I mean, I guess we have cross-country ones already.
Yeah, even us. I mean, we have all those nuclear power plants, but when we haven't built any in forever, I don't think.
And I'll spit off another couple of facts. According to ourworldindata.org, a nuclear power plant is hundreds of times more efficient and cleaner. Or maybe not efficient, cleaner, excuse me, than coal. So,
Jeez.
If you replace, if you had 100 nuclear power plants and replaced, that would be cleaner than one coal. So,
yeah, that's crazy. So I just looked up the most recent one built and opened in the U.S. was in 2016, and the one before that was 1996.
Wow.
So
20-year difference between.
Yeah, 20-year difference. And if you think about that, the 90 other ones were essentially built between 1960 and 1996.
Good engineering.
Something completely changed. Something completely changed in the American psyche, probably from Chernobyl, I'm guessing. And I think it set us back decades, honestly. Like we have that clean power and cheap energy production. And I think the country looks a lot different. And that's why other countries like China are investing so heavily into nuclear, because it's cheap energy.
And you can synthesize it. You can synthesize.
Yeah, you can synthesize it, and
a uranium replacement.
And is uranium even that? It's pretty abundant, I believe.
There's a low grade. This says there's about 40 trillion tons of uranium on Earth's crust, but it's distributed out low parts per million trace concentrate.
Oh, okay, so it's hard to...
So you have to find it in enough abundance on the crust to make it.
So I guess it is pretty rare then.
But still, if you can synthesize it, I don't know what it takes to synthesize. But yeah, Chernobyl happened in 1986, so maybe that's what it was.
Oh yeah, you can see that it says most of the U.S. nuclear power plants were built between 1970 and 1990. So essentially, as soon as Chernobyl was,
they already had the plans and were already starting to build probably when Chernobyl happened, and they're like, "Well, we got to finish it. We started it."
Yeah.
And so,
this might take us on a small tangent, but something about the U.S. really changed in those like decade time frame, where we're like this really engineering country where we're building stuff like nuclear power plants, we're going to the moon. Everything was engineering based, and I feel like it feels like a lot of stuff is not very engineering based anymore. Does that sound right as an engineer? Or it's not as big of an emphasis in our culture.
Well, it kind of goes back to that innovation thing.
Yeah.
Like we did a lot of our innovating now is just computers or software based.
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of the stuff we do now is all just like reusing past math. So like the engineering now is not even like groundbreaking. Yeah, it's really not even innovating. There might be innovation of like, oh, how do I attach this to this? Or how do I get this from here to there? But at the same time, it's been thought of before. You've done it on other projects. So a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the math is just being reused. If even accounting, if you talk to like accountants, oh yeah, we have an Excel sheet that we use to run these figures. I remember when I applied to an HVAC company back in 2018. They're like, oh yeah, we use an Excel sheet to like size different motors and stuff like that. We don't even really do the math anymore. So we just plug the numbers in. Like, oh. So basically I went to school and learned all this stuff and I'm going to use 10% of it, maybe.
Yeah.
Now, granted, mechanical engineering is very wide, very broad. So you wouldn't expect to use all of it, but 10% is pretty low.
But it's just crazy to me. It seems like even big projects that we've already know how to do, such as building a nuclear power plant, we just don't do anymore. It takes like 2 years to build a bathroom now, whenever it took a year to build like the Golden Gate Bridge in the 60s or whenever it was built. Or the Empire State Building. How long did it take to build the Empire State Building? Like now it would take like a decade. And back then I'm sure it took a year or two. That was
Or could be
early
regulations.
1900s.
Could be regulations. Could be unions. I don't know how popular unions were back then. And I mean, I feel like we're getting kind of lazy, just as like a society of building. I mean, yeah, I just think we're getting lazy. There's probably other little factors. Like I said, unions could be a thing. I don't know how much of that it is. And then maybe even some regulations as far as
I feel like regulations is a big part. It's
definitely for nuclear 100%. There's
nuclear,
probably
yeah,
not as much
definitely.
tax incentive for these
gosh,
power
every time,
companies.
and every time I'm sure every time you plan for a nuclear power plant, it's probably fraught with all lawsuits from the Green Party people who, which makes your costs run up incredibly fast. So, so these people are causing a ton of harm, and they're completely degrading their own beliefs, and their whole idea is like predicated on degrowth instead of innovating and doing something different, or sort of replacing energy rather than just canceling it and using less, which is a terrible strategy.
Well, you just have to think the good that they're doing by offsetting that, right? It's like the billionaires when they fly to their world summits in Europe and they fly from the United States. We're offsetting. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah.
We know we spend, we put a ton of emissions in the air, but we're offsetting by how good we're doing at these conventions. But yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, the amount of regulations you have to go through, the amount of pushback you're gonna, like you said, you're gonna get pushback from the green side because they don't understand how much cleaner nuclear is. They just see non-renewable because it's technically non-renewable. They see non-renewable, so they push back. Then you have the oil and gas companies saying, "Hey, here, politician, fight this because we would like to make our money." So you have lobbying from both sides, and it just a two-front war is never good. Ask Germany.
Yeah. Well, Germany's fighting two-front wars back in the day and still today.
The energy crisis in Russia.
Yeah. And yet they'll completely become reliant on Russia by doing this nuclear cancellation.
Well, what does that to blow up another Nord Stream pipeline?
Yeah.
blow up the second one, whatever that one is. Even though it was Norway or maybe Ukraine or name some other country that
it was definitely
like
us.
Russia. Yeah,
definitely
for
us.
Sure. That seems like something exactly that we would do. Did you have any more comments on nuclear, or do you want to kind of summarize?
No, not really.
You kind of want to summarize what we talked about a little bit.
I think. My summary is really simple. Nuclear, because I don't know a ton about nuclear. I just know that it's a much cleaner way than the way we do it, and that the Green Party people are making a huge mistake if they're not on the side of nuclear. And the entire movement, the entire green movement is hurt by the idea that we should be degrowth, when realistically using more energy and more power has consistently been the primary eliminator of poverty and probably the biggest factor in improving people's lives. And to try to cut energy production is a huge mistake. So that's my summary.
Okay.
What about you?
I mean, I think it's good. I think if we don't push nuclear, our government needs to be allowing the other types of renewable energy, as far as solar and wind, to be a little bit easier to get and acquire. Like, I have solar panels. I'm still waiting on the city to approve them. It's been 6 months.
Really?
So I got solar panels installed in my house 6 months ago. The company that installed them and is going through all the permitting and stuff, they did all they can, but they're waiting on the city to approve it, and it's been 6 months. So these need to be easier to to go through. These channels need to be easier to work through. I'm not saying get rid of all the regulations. There's definitely some regulations that are good. Make sure people don't get shocked, don't get hurt with them. But like it needs to be easier. Maybe they need to hire more staff to help approve. There's multiple different ways to go about it. But if we don't push nuclear, these others need to be more accessible and easier to come by.
Yeah, I agree. That's ridiculous. 6 months. That's so. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been fun. I've been hounding the installation company about it for a while now. I text them basically every week and say, "Hey, any update? Any update? Let's get this done." I'd rather not, rather not have to get other parties involved with this process because I'd like this to work, but it is what it is. We keep fighting the good fight, right? Let's transition here into sports gambling. At least here for Oklahoma, it's becoming a little more mainstream, even though it's illegal. I know several people that sports gamble when it's not necessarily legal here. They have discussed it as far as like the state board, I guess Congress has discussed it and is looking like it's more possible. Now, I think you and I are kind of agreeance of like let people just do what they kind of want, kind of deregulate that. But they want, a portion of it I think has been discussed to go towards education. Once education hits a certain budget, it goes to like the general fund. And then it's all, I believe, managed by the Native American tribe still.
Mm-hmm. I'd say on that note, generally, I guess I generally want less taxes, but when it comes to like hedonic stuff, like gambling, I'm all for that type of cranking up those taxes.
So I kind of have mixed feelings about gambling. I definitely think you should be able to, but it's definitely like, obviously you hate people to be addicted to anything, but gambling and like the Powerball and Moneyball, whatever they're called, they're 100% a poor tax. It's 100%.
Oh yeah.
Rich people do not play the Moneyball, Powerball. They don't play that. Only poor people are playing, and they're playing for the chance to be one in I don't know how many millions are their odds.
Yeah.
They're just
100 million, 200 million odds.
Yeah, and so if you buy 3 more tickets, you might win next time. I don't know, but it's definitely a poor tax, and it definitely helps keep people down in poverty or from making better money decisions. But you could also make the argument of, well, they're going to make those bad decisions anyways, whether it's spending it on something else. So why not make it into gambling, which goes into education?
I've
never thought about a fine line.
Yeah, and actually, it is interesting now that I've only been to a casino once, and the time we went, all I can remember is people. It was like you could tell it was probably poor people, and they're all just sitting there like mindless playing the slots. This lady, she comes up to me. She looks like she was meth head, and she was like, "You got a nickel?" And she's like, "A nickel? Are you kidding me? You need a nickel?
Here's $1. Never talk to me again." Well, what about, didn't we go to the horse tracks with you?
Yeah.
Is that the time you're talking about?
That was there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You've never been to a casino other than that time?
No.
Okay.
I don't like gambling. I'm very anti-gambling.
For yourself.
For myself. I don't know. And sometimes gambling I've never thought about, but really I think that's fine to be legal. But I've completely flipped on my libertarian argument for drugs.
Recently?
Recently, yeah, because I think like marijuana should be legal, but I think we're seeing the perfect. You could see like San Francisco or some of those cities, and you can see the perfect example of what happens whenever you just let drugs run free. It's a disaster because we just can't control ourselves. And so I don't know about gambling because I think gambling won't destroy your I mean, you can destroy your life gambling.
But I mean, you
sure.
can destroy your life eating, you know, or
Yeah, you're not going to literally, I guess, physically destroy your life. Which I think
unless
is
you're
worse.
loan sharking, then they'll break your kneecaps.
That's
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, there's definitely a fine line for a lot of that stuff of what should be allowed and what's not. At this point, we should allow sports gambling. I mean,
basically
it's basically already here.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many states there are that allow it, but Oklahoma should be one of them. But also, that's not a free reign to text me or tweet at me and say to use your code when when I sign up for sports gambling apps. Please, I'm begging you, please stop DMing me about that. But on one note of sports gambling, since it's becoming more mainstream, more people are doing it. I've kind of seen like a little bit of an uptick on sports fans, like either tweeting, DMing, or like straight up being confrontational towards athletes of like, why are you screwing me up, man? I bet on you to get 40 points and you got 38. I'll never bet on you again. I hate you. And it's like,
you idiot.
Yeah, they're going to be even worse next game just to upset you. I don't know. What are your thoughts on maybe like the psychology of that, or just
like, I don't know.
I mean, is the rationale behind that?
I don't know. I don't know if that's like an online phenomenon because you just have the shield of being online, so you can be aggressive, or if it's because of the actual gambling itself. But I could see how if you had some skin in the game, like you said earlier, it'd make you dumber. And I feel like people who are gambling any substantial amounts of money on sports are probably not the best people in the world. So I could definitely see how that could cause some problems with athletes.
Yeah, irrationally placed money. Yeah, if you got more skin in the game, which, you know, if you say you're betting a bunch of money on somebody or a team, and especially if you can't pay your bills and you really needed that, you know, you needed those odds to win and be able to pay this month's rent, I could see how you could be pretty upset that you missed out on a bet by a couple points or something. But that doesn't mean go attack the player mentally, physically.
There's a reason you lost money, because it was a low odd event most of the
time. So like, I definitely see an uptick in it, but that's just because people have skin in the game. I'm sure there were already people DMing athletes or, you know, harassing athletes over, well, you're my favorite team and you lost the game, you know, or I bet my buddy $5 that you're going to win and we lost. Like, I'm sure those things happened, but maybe how aggressive they are has been an uptick. Maybe not necessarily the occurrence of them, but the aggressiveness of them.
Oh yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, not gambling wise for this story, but you look at any college football kicker who misses a game-winning field goal in a big game, and it's like the whole Twitter mob is on them. Or that Dallas Cowboys field goal kicker who like missed like 4 or 5 in a row. That dude was like, his life ruined on social media, and people were absolutely destroying him. So, and I bet there was people that gambled on scores that got ruined by him missing field goals or extra points. So yeah, I think online just makes things so much worse or we're so much more aggressive because maybe we have skin in the game with the money, but we don't have any skin in the game with our actual skin online. We could just people
not physically get hurt.
Yeah.
I've seen hecklers at games and stuff.
I have seen the hecklers. Yeah, I saw that one of Westbrook yesterday. After Westbrook had like the incredible game, or 2 days ago, I guess, had that incredible defensive game, and some Suns fan was being an idiot after the game and looked like he was actually trying to fight him near the locker room.
He stood up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Westbrook was like, keep my name out of your mouth, keep my name out of your mouth.
Like, what's these people? They're just looking for a lawsuit. It feels like. That's all they care about.
Well, somebody did post on Twitter that all Westbrook haters are overweight fat people. So, because you have the Sixers fans that flipped him off. That was
Yeah,
an
yeah.
old overweight guy. Well, the last one,
The
I don't
guy
know
with
if
the
they're all.
Westbrook shirt.
Yeah, Westbrook, and then this guy. I don't think he was like obese, but he was definitely overweight.
Yeah.
I can say that I'm fat and obese, so it's okay. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he did have a really good, impressive defensive game. I hope he wins.
I do too. I love him.
All of them Michael
I
Beverly.
also on the sports gambling thing, I have noticed. I saw people complaining about. Feels like every time you turn on a game, that you're getting bombarded with ads about different sports gambling apps or websites or whatever. And I was wondering if you thought that was. Do you think that's a good thing, bad thing, or kind of indifferent?
I'm kind of indifferent.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. It doesn't. They were trying to get it banned. They were like, we don't want, or there shouldn't be sports gambling ads on every single game. But I kind of feel indifferent as well. But I also like tune out ads completely, so I really pay attention.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. In some of the European countries, I don't know if it's the whole European Union, but in some European countries, you're not allowed to have advertisements targeted towards kids.
Yeah,
And that's kind of interesting because like kids are super impressionable and malleable, that these ads can have a serious effect on them and even parents. So what is your thought on that, I guess, going towards the advertising side of that?
advertising for kids. Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, I don't think. I think it's fine to advertise towards kids, but I think it's not fine to advertise towards kids for things that are addictive, such as gambling or maybe. Well, this is where we get into iffy territory because I don't think TikTok or social media should be really allowed for kids under a certain age, just because their brains are so malleable. But I don't think like TV commercials with toys are some bad thing to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just makes ads that much more valuable for adults.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, in the US, you can't. I guess in Europe, you can't do pharmaceutical advertisements. In the US, you can do pharmaceutical advertisements, but you have to like say every single little side effect that could occur with even the most rare odds. Just because, I mean, you have to be completely open, and you can never. And those advertisements are highly regulated. You can't step out of bounds. Like in the supplement industry, people step out of bounds all the time on what they say. They over exaggerate everything in the supplement industry, and then in pharmaceutical ads, you have to be very careful what you say. That's why they're always like based around images. Like people, like a depression medicine, you just see someone being super super happy instead of saying this will cure your depression. This will make you happy. It's just like you just see someone who's super happy. So it's all about those are, I guess that's sort of similar is the advertisements towards kids, should they be a little bit regulated, or gambling wise, if kids are going to be watching this. At least the gambling sites though are pretty regulated. It's not like you're going to be able to get in without being 18 on a site.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah, because you have to put in. So like I tried to do it, and realized how many hoops I had to jump through because it's illegal in Oklahoma.
Yep.
You have to have like a VPN. You have to. You still have to fill out your information on your taxes. So that was one of the things of like, okay, I can VPN. That's not that big a deal. Oh, if I make more than $600, I have to pay taxes on this. Oh, guess what? Okay, I signed up for the site. Now I have to input my social security number, my address, my name, probably 17 emergency contacts if I, withdraw too much, all that, all that fun stuff. And it was just like so much hassle. And I was like, well, this is very easily traceable to me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it. Arrest me, I guess, if you want, Oklahoma, but I didn't do it. So yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. And so if you're 16 years old, 14 years old, it's going to be kind of difficult to do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they can do any type of check on your social security number to see, oh, this social security number's only been around for 12 years.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. That's a very simple function.
Yeah. And it can be very easily automated to like deny. And you can't, I mean, I guess you could fake a social security number. I'm sure that's very legal, but
I saw this tweet yesterday actually that said my friend forgot his social security number and has just been putting in this random social security number over the last 2 years, and nothing bad has happened to him. And I didn't know if it was true. I mean, it's a tweet, so I don't know if it's true or not. But I always have wondered, like, are they actually validating my social security number every time I put it into something?
I'm sure when you buy a gun, yes. I'm sure. I say that. A lot of times those background checks don't actually go through properly. So maybe not. But I'm sure on the ones that are actually checked and actually go through, they are 100% checked and verified.
It feels like government software sucks so bad that these checks might actually not happen.
It's not as uncommon as you think, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But I mean,
sounds like
I'm a government contractor or work for a company that's a government contractor. And I mean, we're using software from the 80s still, and it's 2023. So
ridiculous. I'll build you some new software.
Well, the issue is there's so much of this old software. If you have to think about, you're designing, I work for an airplane contractor or defense contractor that mainly works on airplanes. You have to think of how many years they've been working in the software. Okay, you go to update. Well, guess what? It might not be backwards compatible when you update. Well, you just lost everything you've worked on in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
So that's the big issue.
Yeah,
I mean, if you can make software that converts it or makes it backwards compatible, you will be rich beyond your wildest dreams. Like these companies would pay you billions of dollars.
I don't know if I'm not that good at software, but Chance probably is.
Use ChatGPT. How to make this software work?
I mean, I bet it's almost done. It could probably get to that point pretty soon, honestly.
Or automatically convert, like, oh, you put this file in here and automatically converts to the newest version.
That probably can be done, actually. Probably.
So let's do it. We're rich. The richest people with the least viewed podcast.
Dude, once we make it, that's whenever we get the podcast
rolling. And then I get arrested for my trying to gamble but can't gamble.
You made $10 gambling.
Yeah. No, I didn't actually gamble.
Oh,
because I didn't want to put in the information. I tried, and then it was like, hey, you got to put in this information. I was like, okay, well, that's how sus is it to type in your freaking social security number, your address, and well, it's illegal in Oklahoma. Why is your address in Oklahoma?
No reason.
No reason. Yeah,
you just PO box. That's what you have to do.
I guess. Yeah.
So it's not legal in Oklahoma, but is it going to be legal if it's run by the tribes? Or I mean, is it legal if it's run by the tribes? I guess.
Currently, no.
Okay,
so it hasn't been passed to be sports gambling. I guess sports horse betting, I guess, is different. I guess that's not considered a sport.
Yeah.
Which I will say is very highly addictive. Make sure you're careful. Miko, who was a previous guest on the first season or second season of Simply Technical, when we went with you to the horse track, both of us very much admitted that is very dangerous.
I didn't feel that much danger.
I don't know. I
don't
know what it was, but
I hate losing money, and I hate. I think I would hate winning money gambling too. It feels dirty.
Yeah, we might as well prostitute ourselves. That's what it said in the office.
The male version of prostitution.
Yeah. In the office, Angela's like they do a casino night in their warehouse to raise money for the Boy Scouts, and Angela, one of the characters on there, very Christian, I guess you could say, or very uptight. says like, well, why don't we just prostitute ourselves and give money for the Boy Scouts? What's the difference? So that's what I was referencing.
I don't know my office well enough.
Well, no one's better at the office than me. If you think you're better at the office, comment in the description and we'll battle one-on-one.
We'll have to talk about this with Zach next time.
Does he like The Office?
He loves The Office.
Okay, we can do a top 10 tier list of episodes. Do you have any more you want to talk about with gambling or, well, I guess gambling or
I don't
even
think so.
Heckling with gambling?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Do you have any hot takes then of gambling or nuclear power? You can think of one. Sports gambling, not necessarily a hot take. It will become legal, and it will be a huge problem, I think, as not necessarily as regulations, but as like people will become poor. I think there's something about sports gambling that feels not as rigged as like a slot machine, and it gives you that much more dopamine or addictive hit, I guess, and it will become a huge problem in the United States, if not just Oklahoma.
Interesting. I could see that.
That's my hot take.
There's a lot of poor rural people that I could see getting addicted to it in Oklahoma.
Well, a lot of those people, like, say you don't gamble at like a casino. What are the chances those people love sports? So many people, and it'll be a mainly male thing, of course, because males watch the majority of the sports, male or female, and so I think it'll be a huge problem. Now, education will be even better than it is now with our budget because of a lot of the money goes towards that. But
worth it.
And then they might even be donating to gambling addicts, like nonprofits. That might even be a portion of the money.
Oh, really?
I think a portion of
that's ironic.
Medical marijuana, like tax. I think part of the tax goes to education, and then part of it goes to like drug addiction nonprofits, I think.
Dang. So the incentive structure could cause nonprofits to lobby for a drug addiction nonprofit to lobby for potentially approving more drugs.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I think that's how it is. I think a portion of it goes to education, and then a nonprofit towards that fund, like 10%, I think.
Oh, that's
quite a bit.
Huge. That's pretty awesome. How did the nonprofit be able to get that? That's pretty awesome.
I think they think of how much it could be a problem. I think as far as marijuana as well.
Yeah,
that it could be a problem, for some people that might not be using it for the medicinal purpose, but maybe using it for recreational purpose and become addicted. Contrary to popular belief, marijuana can be addictive. Maybe not the actual drug, but the sensation of getting high can be addictive.
Yeah, essentially everything can be addictive, and that's more so.
But that was the big deal in like high school. Marijuana is not addictive. Marijuana is not addictive. You're like, inherently it might not be addictive, but the thought of getting high and the being high can make you addicted.
Yeah.
So I think their thought process behind that is, well, we can at least help curb some of that issue by donating to nonprofit with a portion of the proceeds. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Did you have a hot take?
No, I guess maybe my hot take is this, that I heard a podcast recently, not recently, maybe it was like 6 months ago. And there was a guy, he was talking about, he had a nuclear power company, but he's like building mini reactors. That's all I really know about it because it's been so long, I don't remember. But my hot take is that hopefully these guys will get past the regulations and hopefully the technology works so that within 10, 15 years, this becomes an actual major contributor to the U.S. energy grid.
The mini ones or in general?
Yeah, the mini ones, but maybe the mini ones will be like, okay, well, this is fine. Let's do
we'll power our neighborhood or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one thing we didn't talk about, those nuclear reactors are ginormous.
Yeah.
Like the actual like part where it has the fission is like crazy big. Well, on the nuclear submarines, they have smaller ones, and they also use it's either military grade or weaponized, one of the two, maybe both, on their reactors. So the reactors are like a fifth the size.
Interesting.
And so like you could make your nuclear reactor a lot smaller using higher grade uranium.
Yeah.
So
that's probably how they do it then. I don't remember. I really am out of my expertise on these topics. But yeah, I think that would be cool if it was proven safe and got to be widespread.
yeah. Well, nothing else. This has been Simply Technical. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check the description for our social medias. Check out for our shorts. They're kind of popping off. We appreciate all the guests we've had. And if you have any ideas, link them down below or send us a video on Twitter and we'll check it out and maybe we can talk about it on the next episode.
See ya.